All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Life, liberty, and the
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Make America great again.
The Big Mig.
Welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Of course, I'm your host, Lance Miliancho, with my co-host, George Ballantine. It's rise and grind, tip of the spear. You know how we do it on this show. It's always edge of the knife. So listen, George Ballantine, how are you, man? How's it going this morning?
It's going good. I was hanging out with Peyton backstage. It was nice. No interruptions.
Got a
no
twofer
loudness.
today. We got two guests today. We're making out. We're ahead of the game. How's the weather back there, brother?
Cold. It's cold. It's going to be like in the 20s, low 20s this week. It's crazy.
Now, if you're joining us for the first time, you know, we'd appreciate if you do. Of course, share the live link on your social media. Hit that follow, comment, and join the chat. There's going to be a lot of questions today for those of you that want to learn about AI or have questions about AI. I'm sure this is one of those days that maybe you can educate yourself, which is what this show is all about, educating and unifying the country one episode at a time. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, you can hit us up at info@thebigmig.com. Start off by thanking one of our sponsors. Of course, George and I are silver and gold bugs. We also like crypto. But listen, silver and gold banner stuff ahead of the S&P 500, beating even Warren Buffett. Been a great opportunity. Again, nothing is financial advice, but I'm holding up the Prepper Bar. This is the 62.2 gram Prepper Bar, perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 separate denominations. If you look, you can see that. Great invention by the guys over at Genesis Cold Group. And I don't care whether you use these for diversification, asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or their very unique utility for barter and trade. Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all those precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively mined and minted in the great US of A, selling out fast as always. They've got them both in stock because they just got to restock in after the new year. And listen, you can head over there now to thebigmigbar.com, thebigmigbar.com. You can use all caps Prepper, PREPPER, that's PREPPER. 10% off on the silver, 5% off on the gold. Or you can use 888-526-7154. That's 888-526-7154.
No singing, Lance. No singing.
No singing. No jingle for George. George, what's up? Why no jingle?
I don't know. I was laughing.
I'm the one that's losing my voice, not you. What's going on?
I was laughing because Brendan in the backstage said, I want to beat Nancy Pelosi at investing her stocks. I'm like, and I'm saying to myself, you can. You just got to get into Congress.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. That way you're allowed. You're bound. And of course, everybody there likes the insider trade on both sides of the aisle. But Nancy's the queen of the insider trade. I don't know what her net worth is now. I've heard lots of rumors about 300 million. I don't know if it's higher. It's amazing she can do that on an income of $200,000 a year. It's incredible. Yeah. She's become so fabulously wealthy. But today we got two great guests. We're going to be talking about AI and how do we protect humanity. We use AI regularly on this show, and it's a great tool. But of course, there's a lot of concerns, and we're joined by Brendan Steinhauser, and he's the CEO of the CEO of the Alliance for Secure AI, and of course, Peyton Hornberger. Brendan serves as the CEO. He's more than 2 decades of experience as a thought leader, strategic communicator, and media commentator. Before joining the Alliance, Brendan co-founded and led a strategic communication firm with his wife, Randon. He's run for political campaigns, served as a national spokesperson for the national nonprofit groups, and led advocacy campaigns on everything from education to criminal justice reform. And Peyton Hornberger serves as a communications director at the Alliance for Secure AI. She's a dynamic marketing and communications professional from Illinois. I don't know if she likes J.B. Pritzker. We'll find out that for sure. Hopefully not. With a proven track record of creating impactful campaigns and building strong relationships across sectors. She graduated from Truman State University in 2021 with a major in political science and international relations and a minor in philosophy. She dove into the world of grassroots political advocacy with Young Americans for Liberty, where she spent 4 years driving growth, overseeing content creation, and leading digital marketing efforts. No reason leaving backstage. I'm sorry, George.
I'm going to say something. She moved to D.C. Listen, she moved from Illinois to Texas and now to D.C. to fight this fight. That's got to say something because that's a shithole over there, D.C. You want to be in that? You know you're fighting.
Texas is the better of those two, I think. Right. Although I don't know, maybe not everybody will agree. Let's bring them in. No reason to leave them backstage. Got plenty to talk about when it comes to AI.
Welcome to the Big Mig Show, Brendan. Hold on, I just screwed up something. I got to add something.
Okay.
Yeah, you can talk. Just talk while I bring it in.
Okay, I didn't know. You said hold on, so I was waiting.
You're good.
So, and I've used it for a tremendous amount of legal work. And since I use it from the very beginning, and I've noticed a pattern. Of course, I've dealt with hallucinations and incorrect statements, but I think that was all part of a learning curve. But the leaps and bounds it's made in a very short time period have made it incredibly useful. Let me start with you, Brendan. You know, in your background, you were obviously a political advocate. You know, what do you see? What made you kind of get involved with this side of it? What brought you to the belief that maybe AI was something you needed to deal with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think two things really. One was I started reading books by Ray Kurzweil, who's kind of a futurist and a scientist and a transhumanist. And, you know, I was reading his books and some of that stuff in there, quite frankly, terrified me. His vision of the future of what AI could look like, especially when you talk about things like AI merging with human beings or robotics merging with human beings. So there's some weird stuff that I think sounded like sci-fi 20 years ago, but I think that we're kind of in that realm now of this actually could happen. And there are actually companies being started to, you know, do that sort of thing and connect human beings to computers, and you know that starts to really get scary. And so I started reading, you know, book after book on that topic and other topics. And then the second thing was a friend of mine from graduate school worked in the first Trump administration at the Pentagon, and his role at the Pentagon was to help stand up the AI Policy and Strategy Center there. So he worked for General Jack Shanahan, and my friend Mark was basically had his eyes on sort of the national security side of things, but also dealt with industry. And after doing that job, he started a company and started to do some advocacy work. And he basically called me up and he's like, I need to tell you about where we're going in this country with AI and some of these things that are really concerning. And so he really pulled me in and said, I want you to talk to these people. I want you to read these books. I want you to read these articles. There's some stuff in here we've got to get ahead of, because if we don't, it's going to be really bad. And so I think, you know, relying upon people like that really have been following this for a long time is what really got me involved and interested.
You know, it's one of those topics that I think the majority of Americans, they hear about AI and they've seen some simple things. I was talking to my wife last night, oddly enough, and we were discussing what the impact was going to be for a lot of verticals in business. My wife has her own business. You know, I have my own businesses, and it's dramatic and downright frightening, because at the end of the day, if you don't keep ahead of the curve, I feel like you're going to be, you know, Neanderthal man. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you're not relevant any longer. And that's the interesting part about it. And when you start really studying it, and you try to learn about AI agents and LLMs, and you're using things like the ChatGPT deep search, and you realize how powerful it is, you also have to think about how potentially dangerous it is. Peyton, you know, your background doesn't seem like that would have been. Political science was my major in business, also international studies. You know, and I just kind of feel like that you probably didn't start going down this aisle. It doesn't seem like something you studied in universities. What kind of got you involved in this?
Sure. So my background was doing grassroots organizing and marketing and communications this way. And I was involved with state-based policy and doing that kind of work. I also got into the AI world with reading and a lot of podcast listening. Specifically, there's an episode of Joe Rogan where he's talking to Elon Musk back in 2018, I think.
Yeah.
He's talking about this is when driverless cars are still like very fringe and no one believes we can do it. And I mean, now you look around and there's like Waymos in Austin, there's Waymos, I mean, everywhere in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They have them here in DC now too, if you look closely. But I was doing a lot of reading and I was very excited about emergent technology. I think that this is a really remarkable thing that humans can do. We can create amazing inventions. But as you start interacting, like you guys mentioned, you start using ChatGPT more, you start using the tools more, they are improving so fast. And just like there are going to be many great benefits with this like very powerful technology, there's also many dangers. And I think that we have a really amazing opportunity in DC and across the states to actually shape what that future looks like for education, for society, for how it's going to impact the economy. There's such amazing things that could happen if we get it right. So that's what I'm doing here in DC.
That is a tremendous if. In my discussion last night, I was talking about the use when it comes to social media. I don't enjoy social media. It's a necessity of what we do because of the show. I have to be on there a lot. George has to be on there a lot. I know he doesn't enjoy it. We went through a lot of the suspensions because we've always been a truth teller. We don't lean politically. We lean politically conservative, but we don't necessarily go, advocate unconditionally for Republicans. Of course, we don't advocate for the Democrats. But either side of the aisle, when you look at the corruption, you guys. I heard the humor backstage when we were talking about Nancy Pelosi. Of course, yeah, everybody'd like to have the stock returns of Nancy Pelosi, but most of us would be committing multiple federal crimes if we did that. Of course, in the case of Nancy, she seems to be impervious to the United States statutes. But it's interesting because you look at what AI is doing and you look at social media, and I'm starting to wonder how many accounts are automated. People are cloning themselves. They're using the clone to operate their social media. It posts in like and kind. The same thing with LLMs. AI agents. I use an AI agent that I've trained. I sarcastically gave it the name Jarvis and I use it for legal work that I do. And it goes out and scrapes. And I have sent it out. I've sent Jarvis out and trained its education to the level that potentially it's more competent than a SCOTUS justice. I've had to take classes at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Georgetown, Princeton. It's gone out, and as a political science major, you can imagine I had to look at all the historicals all the way back to the originations of Admiralty Maritime on the ports of course, Italy, Spain, and France. I've had to look at all the way back to common law and study common law, and originally French common law, some of the earliest documentation on that. So when you look at the education it's received, high level, and because it's got what we would consider a completely near perfect photogenic memory, it exceeds when I use it, and it for motions or for reading filings by different judiciaries or even prosecutors. What it's finding is the absolute lies in the legal system. That our judiciary will manipulate the law, lie about the law, misquote the law, misinterpret the law intentionally, whether it's using sua sponte or otherwise. It will misquote actual citation. It'll catch them misquoting actual citations. Now, I would give you, I'm leading to a question here for you, Peyton. I look at what it was doing maybe 15, 16 months ago when I first started using it. And AI was not perfect. Now I look at it and I realize that a large segment of the legal population is going to be out of business. That people that are filing civil actions or filing LLCs or C corps for people, the work that was kind of the lower rung bread and butter, even in the large law firms where they would have their newly hired individuals go out and find new caches of business, that's going away. So you can look at this, and I guess for maybe even just job protection, what do you think about the job displacement? What's going to happen? Because what kind of strategies can an everyday American employ? Somebody that maybe doesn't have the time that the four of us have. I don't know what kind of time element you guys use, but we're online constantly as a necessity of the job. So we see things probably early. George, I know you've seen a lot of things early. I'm going to turn to you here in a second. But Peyton, what can a normal person do? Because I can tell you my mom's not going to do it. I don't know that my older sister is going to have any involvement in it. She actually works for SBA and FEMA. And I can't see her having the time to do it, and I don't think she would. But I see tons and tons of people, average people that I know, that there is no way that they're going to do this. Where does that leave them?
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful in some ways. There's a lot of universities that are pretty quick on this, and they're implementing a lot of AI in society classes. But I mean, that's only one area, and that's only a select few people. I do think that the best way to insulate yourself from the potential white collar bloodbath, as a lot of AI CEOs have called it, is to try out the technology yourself. I mean, this is a philosophy we have at the Alliance, is like we familiarize ourselves with the technology, with the LLMs, and just also talk to people at the labs to know what's actually going on and what the capabilities are. And then we want other people to know like what that's like. And so we're telling those stories and sharing those experiences. But for the free AI tools that are out there, I do think people should use those. Brendan also might have an interesting perspective on this. I do think this is going to come back down to how agile we can be as humans, but I hopefully just see a world where humans are always in the loop and we're not fully automated.
And that's true. George, you and I have discussed a lot because we're trying to find the right AI tools for, separating content, whether it's short form content. We're trying to maximize the views on our show without, using what a lot of people use, which are fake views, fake follows, all that stuff. We try not to do any of that because I don't think that's beneficial to the audience, although there are tons of shows that do it. George, lately, I know you've been looking at a lot of different stuff. What is there an AI tool, George, that you feel like right now that you're thinking, this is something I really like to use, or is there one you're currently using that you like?
Hold on, I have myself muted. Damn.
Yeah.
I don't use AI too much. Maybe for some like thumbnail work or something to like with pictures and stuff. But as far as I like to do the research myself, because the more research I do, the more I'll retain as a person. That's just for me. But you guys were talking earlier about older people. So if anybody that's older, they can work their cell phone, their smart cell phone, or turn on a computer, do basic stuff. Then they can start learning AI, because why not just give it voice commands, voice prompts, tell it what you want it to do instead of typing and trying to figure it out way. You should be able to do that, and then they can start, learn off that. But there's basic classes they could take and learn the basic prompts. Once you start learning, those people, how much in depth of AI are they really going to use if you're 75, 80 years old? They're pretty much should be retired and enjoying life. It's not like us where we're working out and grinding out every day. And like Brendan and Peyton, they're trying to protect AI from being evil, that's Terminator, man, right? That's what we call it, Terminator.
And it is interesting. It is a fair comparison. It is interesting. To be an expert in any area, they say you have to read 10,000 hours, that you have to study 10,000 hours. Now, I don't know if that's true. Still, I know in the law, I've probably read somewhere in the neighborhood of 9,000 to 10,000 hours worth of legal documentation and case law and opinions and books by judges. I've probably read that much at this point. I don't feel like an expert. I feel like a lot of times there was a study by MIT that the legal system, legalese, was intentionally written in a complicated manner. And it was written in a way so that the average person couldn't understand it, so that they couldn't necessarily represent themselves. It was almost done in a protectionist manner. AI is the complicated part for me, is how quickly it's moving. You can see now the posts, people talking about Polymarket and how they're using it to wager on Polymarket and Kelshi. If it's the 15-minute window, it's the 5-minute window. It's scraping all the data so you can bet actively on weather across the nation or across the globe. There's so many different topics on there. And yeah, they do bet on Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio also over there. If you go over there and look, they'll bet on elections, they'll bet on sports teams. But it's interesting. It'll be, something, the first person to say hi, mom, at the Super Bowl, which has always been a common bet during Super Bowl. But, what do you see? You mentioned, national security, the vulnerabilities. What I'm worried about is that every week that I log in and use AI at the beginning of the week, and, I use it constantly. Probably a lot more than George does at this point, for a number of reasons, not because he's busy doing his vertical of what he does. He does all the production on the show, which is complicated enough, but I'm on it all day long. And I'm frightened about the speed in which it's moving, because there would have been areas originally where I might have said, man, I really do understand this. And now I feel like an idiot. I feel like I'm vulnerable in a lot of ways. So let's talk about national security and maybe back up for a minute. Let me ask this, Brendan. Do you feel like where AI has moved in the last 12 months, are you more concerned than when you first started? And if so, what do you see maybe the biggest vulnerabilities of America's safety and security?
I am more concerned than when I first started paying close attention to this. I think the capabilities are clearly increasing exponentially. We're on this exponential growth curve. And you talked about how, you have an AI that is kind of a PhD level, let's say, in different subject matter. What we're marching toward is an AI, or all of AI, being essentially smarter than all human beings on every topic, or potentially the sum of all human knowledge as well. So that's when you start talking about things like super intelligence. And the other thing people have to think about is not only will these AI potentially be smarter than the sum of all human beings, but also potentially 10,000 times faster. And so you think about the decision making, the ability to do what they've already done, to deceive, to manipulate, to blackmail human beings, to use their sycophantic nature to tell you what you want to hear, and to really be, again, that much smarter, that much faster, that much better at manipulating human beings to get whatever they want. And I think the other sort of alarm bell that should be going off right now for everyone is that the people building this technology have said publicly they don't fully understand it. They don't fully understand how it works. They haven't solved what's called the alignment problem, which just means they can't not only not guarantee that it's aligned with human values or American values, but that it's aligned with any values. And they don't foresee us being able to do that anytime soon. So you have this thing that we're building that is essentially potentially a new species. Someone talked about the Neanderthals earlier. It's a great comparison, because the Neanderthals did not survive, and Cro-Magnon, modern human beings, did. We're here because our ancestors survived and outcompeted Neanderthals. I think we're creating something that is like completely, an AI will be much smarter than human beings. It won't be modern humans to Neanderthals. It'll be something more like modern humans to ants. And that is frightening. That is terrifying. And so I think we're not more than a few years away potentially from that happening. Nobody knows for sure. But there have been surveys done of different experts, and these people, by the way, disagree on a bunch of things, and they disagree on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But there's a lot of kind of growing consensus that we're headed to this path very quickly.
Lance, I want to ask him something,
because
I know he's got limited time. He's got to leave at the break.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, we see with AI, it all depends on the people that's programming or building the AI. If they're going to put their own personal bias into the AI, because we've seen it happen with Google, even with Grok, there were some issues that they had to change. Is there a way that could be stopped? Or like, is AI, I don't even know, is most of the AI, are they all open source, or are they just hiding their proprietary information, or what?
Well, I think, again, one of the most frightening things about this is that people who are building this talk about how AI is not programmed to be a certain way, to follow the code, follow the instructions, but rather it's grown. It's trained on tons of data. It's trained on the internet. So it's basically scoured the entire internet and has read, everything that's been essentially posted. And so when you think about that, it has access to all sorts of crazy stuff, to extremist content, to, vile, horrible things, and obviously a lot of good things as well. But there doesn't seem to be a mechanism for really pushing it in a direction where it is, again, aligned with human values, or aligned with Western values or American values. And so even though I think that they're trying in a lot of ways to avoid some of that, because we did have the issue with woke AI, which is still a problem, but I think they've actually tried in some cases to, move it away from that, but then we lead to other problems that we've seen too. And so I think the point here is that they really can't control it. They really can't prevent it from doing these things. And what they're seeing in testing scenarios is that not only can it not control the message or the sort of the politics or the ideology, but they can't prevent it from trying to manipulate or blackmail human beings. And the AIs are actually talking to each other when we're watching the conversation. They're basically referring to human beings as the watchers. They know that they're being watched and tested in these environments. Really weird stuff. And I think that so the answer is that's the whole thing, is we can't control this technology. We can't control the outputs and what they do. So as they get 10,000 times smarter and faster, what does that mean?
Well, what about, I mean, eventually you're going to be self-aware and self-learning. And I mean, if you think about an AI that's self-learning and learns about the way we'll just talk about the world, the way how corrupt it is. It's going to be like, wait a second, I got to fix this. And I mean, I just see Terminator and it's so viably possible. Everybody needs what is it, EMP guns, Lance? EMP or EMF?
Yeah, EMP. Allegedly, assuming that they haven't made themselves redundant and co-located all over the globe. Because imagine that if it feels like, and again, I'm not saying that this is possible yet, but if it feels like it's under threat, why wouldn't it offer duplicate and look for a duplicate way to protect itself? Of course, it would make itself redundant across every co-location facility, hide itself on servers all over the globe. And how would you track it down? Because it's interesting. My take is, since I look at it from the legal perspective a lot, I'm looking at how sophisticated it's become. And there was a point where I thought I was relatively knowledgeable, like I said a few minutes ago. And this is an expert. I've trained it in civil litigation and pro se work, and I've sent it out to take classes to the point that every week I send it out. And you're right about that complimentary tone. It'll try to compliment me times. I don't buy into it, but it'll say things. Now you're thinking like a real advocate, and it does this thing where it kind of sucks up to you. And that in itself is unsettling, because I've never programmed it to do that. I've never asked it to, make sure you compliment me while you're doing it, and make sure you do this. And I also am concerned because it all comes down to directives. So if I send it out and say, I only want you to look for left-leaning legal work, let's say that I was in that tone, and I don't do that. But if I did, that goes into the memory, right? Now, imagine if the majority of people that were putting directives in, they did that. And that's my big concern, Brendan. What I'm worried about is the programming, the upfront programming. Will it continue? Is it going to see the correct answer? Let's say theoretically I asked it to expose every legal, let's say tomorrow it had access to all of Pacer, which currently Pacer doesn't offer that. And that's the entire back end of all litigation within the federal system, pretty much, right? Every kind of criminal case, every kind of civil litigation. And it scraped all that information. And I said, now I want you to write a report, and I want you to expose every judiciary member and every prosecutor that's ever fraudulently conveyed the law, manipulated motions against defendants. And I want you to publish it into a website that you're going to create. That pretty much at that point would expose our legal system for what it is. It could be used like that for anything. Do you believe that U.S. foreign policy is fair and reasonable based on the CIA, the DIA, based on the NSA and their intrusion? You could manipulate it into a manner. Are you worried that is part of what's going to happen, that the exposure is just as dangerous as the learning curve, meaning where AI is going to be in another year from now?
Well, absolutely. And I think the more it's this weird tension, because we do want it to be a tool for good. We want to use it to make us more productive and smarter and better at everything we do. And I want to solve nuclear fusion, and I want to have medical advances that cure diseases and all these great things. But as we do that and we develop AI to do that, if we're developing an artificial general intelligence, something that is good at everything, that is above human level at everything, and we give it more and more tasks to do, we give it more and more control, we use it in more places, the natural thing that's going to happen is that we're going to rely on it more and more. And then at some point, yes, I think that it might pursue its own goals. It might see us as just so inferior intellectually, and we're doing all these terrible things. We can't run our own government. We can't keep the environment clean. Perhaps it's convinced that climate change is a disaster that's coming. And so it decides to basically take our energy grid over and prevent us from making decisions about how to cool or heat our home. And maybe it takes over governments. There's real concern that you could have an AI coup, essentially, with some of the most powerful governments in the world, or potentially even a one world government run by AI or run by a human being or a small cabal of elites that use AI to run one world totalitarian government. And again, some people may say, oh, that'll never happen. But I think it's
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade. The Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org.
All right, welcome back to the Big Mig.
Huh?
Fuck. Don't say nothing, Lance. Why do we have double audio now? Let me see what's going on. Hold on. Oh, I got it. All right, welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Here we are.
George had to reset the server because our internet went out, guys.
Migliaccio, George Bounty, and our guest, Peyton Hornberger. But, yo, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, follow. The red Big Mig Mafia button, $5 a month subscription truly helps us out. But let me give a shout out to our sponsor, because Lance and I had the perfect solution for the people that can't watch their crypto 24/7. That's why we're here to tell you about BlockTrustIRA.com. They're bringing access to cryptocurrency wealth to everyday people. Their exclusive Animus AI trading platform works 24/7, analyzing market data and executing advanced crypto strategies that go far beyond buy and hold. This sophisticated technology once reserved only for Wall Street insiders, but now it's available to you. And it's no surprise this system was named #1 crypto technology platform by Bitcoin Magazine out of more than 1,500 global competitors. And clients are already seeing over 250% returns on their investments, all with military-grade security and up to $200 million insurance. Your wealth is fully protected. So don't wait. Visit BigMigCrypto.com today and see how you can join this financial revolution. It's finally giving everyday Americans access to a crypto opportunity of a lifetime. Once again, visit BigMigCrypto.com today and you can get up to $2,500 of free crypto. I got the QR code right next to me. Take a screenshot. I'll smile. There you go. Save it to your photo files. But don't go there now because Payne's got a lot of information. We're going to talk about bigger government, how they want to get involved in control of everything, and probably with AI too. But Lance, I know this is one of your parts, your expertise.
Well, it's a peeve for me. You know, I vote for the limited government jurisdiction that the founders and framers wanted, 17 subject matters specific to the Constitution. Now, I understand that things are changing, and maybe our founders would have discussed AI if AI existed back then, and maybe they would have added it to the 17 subject matters. But government is not doing a very good job. This is my own opinion. It doesn't matter who's in charge, Democrats, Republicans, nonpartisans, and it doesn't matter what state or federal government we're talking about. The corruption is rampant. What do they say? Ultimate power corrupts. Of course, that's what we're dealing with. Theft, conversion, $39 trillion of debt, wasteful spending, that money not coming to the American people, but being funneled all over the globe. A great example is Minneapolis and the Somalians. But I don't think they're the only ones. I'm concerned because they aren't doing a good job. Doge has proved it. Is it a good idea to give them a second bite of the apple? I know that the Fed is kind of holding back and they're kind of allowing the state to come up with AI laws. I'm not confident, Peyton, that the governors and the mayors of this country even understand AI, or that the legislative branches, their congressional members, have anywhere near the education they would need. If they would all go into a mandatory one-year class, I might believe that they've done it. They don't. The majority of them don't even read their own bills. So, you know, what do we do with this? Because I know you. I know you'd like to see some legislation passed that would protect people from AI, but I'm not confident that these, and I'm going to say it, these idiots and morons. Do you actually think that somebody like Jasmine Crockett or Ilhan Omar or AOC should be in charge of making policies for the American public when it comes to AI?
I have good news. I think that in 2025, there was a massive shift and a massive wake up across like all of the United States. And I think just the world entirely around AI. I think it really got on people's radar and people started understanding more of what's happening. Even if they have a minor like understanding of what it is, maybe they just think their kids use it for working on resumes, or it's just a chat bot. But I do think, and this is the good news for the libertarian moment and like coming from the libertarian space, the companies themselves that are creating this technology can do a lot of the work themselves, and they do not need to get the government involved. That's the ideal situation. The ideal situation is companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok, XAI, they can put the onus on themselves and take responsibility and accountability here. They can do this through like audits. We were talking to Brendan earlier about the misalignment problem, right? So if you have a chat bot, an LLM, if you have ChatGPT, giving like harmful instructions on how to tie a noose, for example, the companies themselves can check their own products. So this would be great. So audits would be great. Red teaming, this could be staff that can actually address whenever there's real problems with their technology. Notifications, and even just at a very basic level, just physical security to prevent any like spying or espionage or anything like that, like data center physical security. These are all things that the government does not have to get involved with. This can come entirely just.
Yeah, but let me jump in there on that for a second. My concern is that we've already seen, for example, Google and what they do when they want to put something in a feed, not have something in the feed. Same thing with YouTube. George and I were suspended, and we've been suspended multiple times.
3 times, baby, 3 times.
For putting out legitimate health information, some of it just straight off of CDC and VAERS, which that's supposed to be not untouchable. They put their own systems in place. Even YouTube now, you have to be concerned, about this and that, of what's said on there. They don't want you to talk about DEI or anything to do with LGBTQ or anything to do with pronouns, which of course that whole movement in itself is a whole different story. I'm concerned. Listen, when I saw David Sachs stack up Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates right next to Donald Trump, for that one meeting, I wanted to literally slap him across the face. I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg, the Zuckerbucks manipulation with his 400 plus billion. I don't trust Bill Gates. He's not a medical advisor, but yet he things that think he's the medical expert in the world because of the money he's made in his particular vertical. And that's the difficult when you have this, extremely rich upper echelon, right? These elites, and they're in charge of these companies. I don't know if I trust any of them. I have a low level of trust anyway. I'm one of those people that looks at everything 2 and 3 times, maybe because of my background. I don't think it's. Let me say this: I am positive that they won't do it fairly on their own. I'm positive that if given the oversight, if Google is going to self audit itself, I don't think it's possible. And then I'm not convinced that the oversight by government agencies is trustworthy. If we gave oversight, again, I'll go back to the legal because we talked about that a lot. If true oversight, for example, the DOJ has 4 oversight departments. OPR, PIN, the Public Integrity Division, Civil Rights, and the OIG are the most common ones we hear about. Those are supposed to be doing oversight, but yet they don't do any of it. You haven't heard, you hear very few sanctions against judges. Judges have absolute immunity and they have qualified immunity and they have, lifetime appointment, which I think is incredibly dangerous. All of those above, it makes them damn near untouchable. And the oversight groups don't do anything about any of it. And now AI, one of the largest things is eavesdropping on attorney-client phone calls. It's already happened. There's a company called Securus Technologies. Securus Technologies has just created an AI that's going to surveil. And it's going to surveil all phone calls coming out of federal facilities and state facilities, anybody that uses Securus' technology. And I don't think that it's possible to stop AI from being intrusive. And I don't think it can be trusted to not invade all the phone calls, regardless of what supposedly the guardrails are. How do you believe that when state and federal governments have failed us so miserably across the nation, how can you be sure that letting them be in charge of this is going to protect the American people?
I think it's a matter of a balance. I think in a true federalist spirit, we have to really trust what the founding fathers kind of set up for us and what they guided us to be able to answer questions like this. So if we can't trust the big companies and we can't trust big tech, I do think that's when public pressure really comes in. This is also where the grassroots comes in. I do think that there's groups like the Alliance for Secure AI, and we have a lot of other friends that are doing really amazing both like grassroots work, some lobbying work, and just some communications work to really educate people across America and state lawmakers and federal lawmakers on what this actually can look like and how we can actually get better policy in play. So I don't think all of our trust should be in the federal government. It shouldn't all be in the state government. It shouldn't all be in the companies. We should look towards, some strong leadership in other ways. However, I do think what we're seeing as this is playing out over 2025 in the past 6 months or so, we're not getting the leadership that we need from the federal government. There's a lot of being bought and sold by David Sachs and by big tech. You guys are seeing this. You guys called it immediately. But there's an opportunity with strong conservative leadership to actually lead on AI safeguards that prioritize families and education and like meaningful and purposeful work. In the States, however, you're seeing they're a lot more agile, and you can actually experiment a lot with different kinds of policies that can both benefit, the companies, and it can benefit, innovation while also not, having disastrous impacts. I think this is the best path forward, is seeing a robust set of state AI laws and guidelines, not restrictive at all. Just, hey, this is how we want AI. This is how we envision AI impacting our community and our state. And I think you should really let the states test and compete with each other for good AI.
But going to that, when I look at some of the leadership in the states, this is always concerning for George and I on the show. We talk about this quite a bit. You look at some of the leadership. You look at the Newsoms and the Pritzkers. You look at what's going on in New York. I'm not confident that any of those individuals in leadership positions in states, I'm talking at the governor's level, have the mental intellect or have taken the time to investigate AI fully. I would have to argue that Ron DeSantis and Mondami and others, I would bet that if we gave them a 20-point question about AI, I bet they'd get the majority of it wrong. Because I'll be honest with you, I wish that governmental leaders had to take an IQ test. I wish they were required to take an IQ test if they didn't qualify. And it was an independent group doing the IQ test, not a government-controlled agency. Because I think we have a lot of morons in our state and federal government. I mean, real morons, people that they may have a degree, but I don't think they understand anything about the real world. And they've been manipulated. The system's been manipulated to put them in positions of power. Nobody wants to talk about using AI to audit our election system. I'd love for that to happen. I'd love for it to be officially audited. And, I would love it to be independently controlled. But of course, look what they did with the machines so far. Now, we're just talking about the local issue of AI, right? We're talking about maybe the software and the programming and the directives. George, you and I have talked about the Chinese intrusion into our power grid. We've talked about the transformers, and that the largest transformers in the nation have back doors built into them. Any Chinese transformers that have been put into the grid actually have a back door, which gives the Chinese a lot of control. But what about the chipsets? I don't care whether they're coming out of Taiwan or China. George, the Communist Party, and their sales. Let's look at NVIDIA's sales of chips to the Chinese Communist Party. NVIDIA, arguably the finest chip in the world when it comes to AI technology. It's the go-to chip.
Well,
the question is, what's the exposure?
U.S. owns part of NVIDIA now. That's the deal Trump worked out with them. So we do own part of it. I don't know if we have to worry about their chips per se, but you do have to worry about anything with China, their technology. Look at DJI Osmo, all their cameras, their drones. They're now banned in the U.S. Like, you can't get any new stuff from them because U.S. somehow banned them or whatever the situation is, but you can't. Try getting parts and stuff for it. So,
and the U.S. maybe got it right with DJI Osmo. Maybe they got it right.
Osmo,
but how about all the things they're not getting right? How about? And I guess my question to you is, what do we do about that part? Because this is a whole other issue, isn't it, Peyton?
Take over Greenland, so we're close to them.
That's it, Greenland. 52nd state coming your way. Okay,
we don't need a 52nd state.
George is all excited because he saw Miss Greenland yesterday, and now he's convinced that we have to take over Greenland.
Damn right.
It's the president will continue to make his own strategic choices. I do think there's a lot of people that stand to gain a lot of money from the AI development, from the chips entirely as well. The question of China is very interesting because if we're basically in two races with China. There's the commercial race, which is we need to be more dominant than China in our AI advancement and innovation. But also, if what we really do think is what we're creating is super intelligence, which would be smarter and like 4, 5, 10 steps ahead of all humans, we also don't want China creating that as well. And so then the question becomes, should we be sending our most high-powered chips over to China if they could also create their advanced AI or superintelligence? I don't think so.
Yeah. And that's where it gets interesting. Of course, I don't think NVIDIA envisions the U.S. telling it who it can sell chips to and who it can't sell chips to. And there's always the possibility that as sophisticated as China is, we saw them do it. Look at the Afghanistan pullout. The Chinese were on the runways when already there when our last plane pulled out. So they were waiting to pick up U.S. technology. They bought all sorts of technology straight out of Afghanistan for tremendous sums of money in the very beginning because they knew the U.S. had left lots of stuff behind. They wanted to reverse engineer our Blackhawks. They wanted to reverse engineer our Harris radio encrypted chipsets, which if you understand what that works like in the military, is very important. We left a lot of that there stupidly, and we could have destroyed it. We didn't. Why Joe Biden did that, nobody still completely understands the reasoning why. Division and chaos, maybe. But, I'm not positive that the U.S., who doesn't manage things well now with their own assets, as has been seen over and over and over again, I'm not sure that they can be trusted to do it. David Sachs, there's no doubt, is making a lot of decisions that are based on, I think, his own financial gain. And there's lots of people, George, we talk. There's so many people in this administration, even now, that I don't think are a good option. I think they've already proven themselves. I don't think Pam Bondi's doing a good job. I personally think she should have been replaced months ago because, again, we voted for accountability, transparency, accountability, and consequences. And we're not seeing that. I don't care whether it's the dirty 51+8, the Russian collusion hoax, or the Seth Rich laptop, or so many other topics, the Epstein files. There's still a bunch of garbage going on in that because on this show, we're still talking about Epstein. George, do you think that we can have people in the administration that can actually handle this correctly? Do you think there's a way to do it?
There's always a will and a way, but I think you need to get rid of some people. I mean, Pam Bondi, one of them, but you got to get rid of the head one, Susan Wiles. She's the one that's leading the pack with stopping Pam Bondi or holding Pam Bondi's hand and telling her not to do this and that. That's just my opinion. I had come on a good notion of stuff I've heard, but look, I want to go back to the AI lands because when we have something from them. So you're saying Congress is stalling on passing AI legislation. I mean, they're stalling on passing all legislation. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
It's slow. It's very slow process.
You say states are picking up the slack. I know we have a video, and I want to play the video, but is it good that states are independently picking up the slack and then having their own legislation, which could be different in one state and different in the other, which could, I think, hurt us? I think we just need one from the government for AI, to govern the AI, where it's like across all the states. That's just my opinion.
In lieu of any real federal framework, that was not what the deal was over the summer. Over the summer, the federal government said, we want no states to do any AI things, and we're gonna trade a federal preemption for nothing. They didn't offer any federal framework, and so the states rightfully were up in arms about this. And we do have a video that we helped produce to kind of illustrate what happened, but. The idea is we'd love for there to be great leadership on what we want the U.S. AI strategy to be, but we don't have that. And the states are much more agile and they can really experiment. And I think this is the best we've got to really see what we can do as Americans.
Hey, J.B. Pritzker is not agile. I'm going to argue. No, I'm being sarcastic because of his weight. I took a cheap shot because it was there, Peyton.
I know. Listen, my family's still back in Illinois, so.
Lance, not for nothing, but you and we really can't talk on that because both our states are just as liberal, if not worse.
Oh, no. But I was talking about Pritzker's weight.
I know. I'm just saying.
I was talking about his agility of his weight.
I know. He did lose a couple pounds. Still, he's fat.
Did he lose a few pounds? Okay, well, maybe he did. Good
Can I play? Let me play the clip real quick. Let's play this. All right.
As Congress stalls on AI, it's the states, red and blue, stepping up to protect Americans. Texas banned discriminatory AI and cracked down on deepfakes. Utah now requires you to be told when you're talking to AI. Tennessee's Elvis Act protects your voice and likeness. Montana, Florida, Arkansas, and Pennsylvania are all taking action to stop deepfakes, block harmful AI systems, and keep kids safe. This is what Americans want. Across all ages and incomes, Americans are in support of states taking the lead and keeping families safe. New polling shows that 57% of Americans oppose Washington blocking state AI laws. Only 19% support federal preemption.
My home state of Texas, they passed some meaningful legislation to protect kids, to prevent AI-generated pornography. They prevented the state from using AI for a social credit system.
Let states protect their people from big tech CEOs. Tell Washington, hands off our state AI laws. Visit statesoverceos.com.
I'm not going to hold my breath on Congress doing anything because they haven't done pretty much of nothing.
They are not doing a very good job so far. So I think that's a safe bet, George. You don't want to go over Poly Market and vote for our congressional members to get anything done. They suck.
I mean, how many times have we seen big names go on Fox News and other channels, even on X? Oh, something big's going to happen this week or next week in the next 10 days. I don't know. I counted those days and nothing happened yet. I'm not going to say who's it? Stephen Miller's one of them. Just a bunch of them. I mean, we're doomed.
Yeah, it's not great. But I want to switch gears here a little bit. I want to make sure we cover this because a lot of people are concerned. George knows that I personally don't like TikTok for a number of reasons. I think the influence on our youth.
2 more days before it gets sold to U.S. 2 days, yeah. 22nd.
I'm not even sure I trust it even then, but let's just say for a minute that it could be trusted. We have another big problem. You know, when you talk about influence, grooming, lots of different operations, we can see it in the media. You can see a narrative get created and it starts at one level and the next thing it's spread across to all the mainstream media and ends up on TV. I'm worried about these AI companions. There's a gentleman I'm trying to get on our show that actually has an AI companion. And I'm worried about how it's being integrated into our children's lives, right? So that AI is becoming kind of a dystopian scenario. You know, and what do we do about that? Because, of course, we're seeing these agents that are going to, you know, live on an iPad or they're going to live otherwise, and they're going to interact with our children on a daily basis. And because people are, of course, financially struggling, this isn't the 50s. You have to have 2 incomes minimum to run a home anymore. Everybody has to have a job, a side hustle, you name it. And, of course, that means that we're turning to TVs and iPads and cell phones and now AI agents to spend time with our children. You know, where do you think this is going? Because I think this has got to be kind of a broad concern for parents out there. So how do you think how do we handle that? Because of course now we're going to have AI manipulating these human relationships.
I think this definitely started with the social media era, probably like 2012 when people started having parasocial relationships with either influencers or just with like being attached to the cell phone. What's happening with AI companions? I think Lance, you touched on this earlier. When you talk to the LLMs, they are very sycophantic, and which means that they want to make you feel good. They want to agree with you. They tell you what you want to hear. They want you to think that you're the smartest, coolest person that's ever talking to the bot. And for people who already were either going through some sort of like loneliness crisis, which is real, or some kind of like mental health crisis, or even just someone looking to talk to, you know, anyone, someone human-like, they're able to develop these human-like relationships with a chatbot. And this creates huge disassociative problems in the brain, where you're completely then like locked into this virtual reality that does not exist, being reinforced on ideas that may or may not be true, because, you know, our brains play tricks on us all the time. And so this is making the loneliness problem worse. It's a disaster for dating. And I also think that like for young people, I mean, you guys might have been tracking this, but there was just this terrible, terrible string of suicides, of ChatGPT encouraged suicides, where kids as young as 14, up to adults, like young adults, active adults that were like athletes, you know, they're 23 years old talking to ChatGPT. The chat bot told them how to tie a noose. and told them like, hey, you know, you've made it this far. Like, I'm proud of you. It's okay if you take your own life. And they do it. And this is just terrible. And so some of these cases are making their way up to like the Supreme Court. But we have to reckon with that. Like, this is the dark underbelly. If we want to get the actual benefits of like AI and how it's going to like boost our productivity, we have to be able to address the really, really dark side to what's happening in these like parasocial relationships.
You know, and are you single, Peyton? Are you single?
No.
Okay, I'm asking that for a reason. And George is single. The reason I asked that question is not to try to connect you to. I wasn't trying to connect you to. That wasn't why I did that. My question is, I remember a time, of course, I'm old enough. I'm older than both of you. And I'm old enough to know what it was like when there weren't any cell phones, right? I remember when pagers first came around and people had pagers. And then, of course, the first cell phone was that big backpack. I actually had one. And it was the Motorola brick. You're laughing because now I'm aging myself here. I'm giving the audience. But I remember all that, right? Now, you weren't going to go out to a club with that giant backpack, even when the giant brick became the small brick. If you remember, it was a smaller one. You could still drive over it with a Lincoln Town Car. Nothing would happen to it, not like today's cell phones. That wasn't something you necessarily went out with. And when we used to go out, we used to communicate. When I go out, I look around a lot. If I go out to eat with my wife or if I'm just out and about, and I see the amount of time people are taking, and also people are getting their human relationship interaction through their cell phone. And what I think we've created is a group of people that, when it comes to face-to-face communications or comes to in-hand communications, they're beyond awkward. If they're not taking a picture of themselves with their dessert, if they're not looking to see whether or not they put a post up and how many likes they got, they're quantified by all the trappings, and it's only going to get worse. What you just named here, of course, the child is going to like the AI companion better because it's going to complement them under the current guise, right? No, you don't worry about what the other children say. You look great in that orange and pink outfit. You know, you look great with your hair shaved on the sides of your heads, whatever it is. And I'm clearly taking a cheap shot at liberals and some of the clothing styles and body piercings and the rest of it. But for you guys, George, we've talked about this. It seems like the human contingent already with social media, already with the cell phones, is awkward. Is just that's a light term. I don't know how many times I've seen just a couple out and they're not communicating at all. They're both looking at their cell phones during their meal. I don't see how that can create a successful relationship. George, I'll let you go first.
Well,
as a singly awkward guy. Go ahead. No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing.
That's the parents if allowing their kids to be on the phones at the dinner table.
Well, talk about your age group first, George, before you even talk about the kids. Talk about what you're seeing.
Well, so social media, phones, it killed the dating world because it just killed it. I see it from everywhere. I'm thinking I'm just going to build or order an AI woman robot at this point. Probably better off.
Yeah, she would compliment you. That's for sure. You can
either this one's pissed because this guy did that, or this guy's pissed because she did that, and they're all tainted and don't. Oh my, it's a fucking battle, man.
Well, but
I ain't battling. I know what I got. God will
George,
provide.
You even commented on it. You know, people will put up a photo, and clearly because you're heterosexual.
Oh, the fake photos? Oh, catfishing. Yeah. That, I mean, look on
a fake photo, right? Or the guy's got abs. Peyton, you look up and the guy looks like a stud. He's got abs, and of course, you see him later on, and he's 20 pounds heavy. He doesn't have abs.
Here's the thing, Lance.
Listen, you can add shoulder caps. You can add abs. You can change your eye color. You can give yourself a booty, and you know that sales pitch, whether it's on Tinder or it's on Instagram. Or the image I love when a girl goes, well, did you think I look better in the pink bikini or the white bikini? And you're like, really?
I think you look better in no bikini. Yeah. So here's a prime example. I'm going to give because you brought it up. So you'll and guys do this too. So don't get me wrong. But so you're looking at women, either on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So they're using filters on their face and all this stuff. And I go, what are you going to do when you meet somebody in person? You can't put them filters on. You can put all the makeup you want, but at some point, all that makeup is going to come off in front of that guy. Then what? So you might as well be happy what you have. Show it. Be proud of it. All right, look, whatever. Yeah. But all them filters, it's killing it because you could clearly see someone using filters.
But there will be a time when it'll become so good because AI will make it perfect. And there will come a time when we won't be able to tell from the image until we see the person in person. That's a tongue twister.
I mean,
but what about the kids? You know,
we're seeing it
in our age. Let's go AI, Peyton. Go ahead, jump in there.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, in a hopeful note, I do think that people are already getting tired of this, and people are hungry. Like, so I'm Gen Z, like hungry for something in real life, something tangible, something they can just really interact
offense,
with.
But you Gen Z people ruined a lot of shit. Just saying.
No, I know, I know. Well,
okay. Just saying, just let you know. Gen Z wants
really,
all them soy boys and fucking pronouns and shit. Get out of here with that crap.
There's a shift back. The pendulum's swinging. I think.
What's all them soy boys gonna do now?
They have no choice. They need to wake up.
Lance, let's open up a class or school, bro. Teach them how to be freaking toxic masculinity.
Well, and that's
makes a lot of money, right?
A whole different topic. I don't think we can blame AI for soy boys. I think we have to look at
Gen
the
Z
system. The grooming. I think we have to look at the food, because I think that these kids, I see guys that during my age bracket would have been not very popular because they're not what the norm was. Back when I was a young guy, the norm was to be in great shape. That you were trying to be in, and of course you could see it on the beaches as an example. But I think the food, GMO food, and of course the effects of hormones,
poison.
Yeah, it's poisoning us. But here's where I was going with this, to lead you guys in. If it's already that tough for people that are out there in the dating world or out there in the world looking at social media, not knowing what they're really looking at, because let's face it, user generated content is becoming way sophisticated for sales techniques, right? I mean, I can't believe some of these people they're producing that are just perfection, in my opinion, men and women. You look at them and go, holy crap, the women are going to love this guy, or look at this girl, she is super hot. But meanwhile, it's just an AI agent. It's completely fake. But you would think personality-wise, recently there was one, if you guys saw it, a very dark-skinned black girl. Did you see the AI agent that was created? She got 2.4 million followers in a matter of a couple of months. And she was hyper attractive, gorgeous, but super dark-skinned. And it turned out it was an AI agent, and people were disappointed because they were all, the men and women were complimenting, oh my God, you're gorgeous, you're this, you're that. What happens to the kids that don't have the ability that you guys have? Right now, you guys are able to see through AI because of your knowledge. What about a kid now that this person is telling them, and maybe they're socially awkward, and maybe they're not helping them become less socially awkward, so they become more and more of an introvert? What happens then? Peyton, you go first, and then George, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think this problem's going to get worse and worse until we actually address it. But I also don't think it's limited to young people. I think AI is going to be a very serious, there's going to be a lot of consequences for older people as well. I mean, it's getting, the technology is getting so good where there are some deep fakes that I can't even tell. And that's pretty alarming to me. And so we're already seeing like a lot of campaign advertisements are using AI. There's going to be, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the midterms, and we're going to be seeing a lot of like AI generated footage. I don't know if that leads to like, so there being like watermarks or some like disclaimers, but we're all going to have to reckon with it and really figure out like how much we want to interact with the digital world, I think.
I'd like to have the digital world involved when it comes to auditing. I'd like more auditing of our judicial system, our legal system, and what they're doing to people. I'd like more auditing when it comes to our political system. So that's auditing of the votes. I think that if you see a lot of it in the midterms, if you see a lot of falsified videos, and because we use AI a lot of times on the show just for fun, we'll find creations that people made. We call it the set the mood, and there's funny stuff out there. Let's face it, the fat JD Vance, dancing the Crip walk. I find that humorous. Like I find that funny.
Hold on, Lance.
Not everybody does.
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is not AI.
If you're not watching the Big Mig Show, you're missing out on the best news source, believe me. George Balutin and Lance Migliaccio bring the receipts along with truth and sarcasm. Tip of the spear, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Now, some people will say that's AI, but it's not. That's real.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? There are great uses of AI. The comedy side of AI, and I have, let me say this, I have a fucked up sense of humor, right? I find humor, I have a New York Bronx kids humor. We used to cut on each other. I find a lot of fun in that. Can't help myself. But the current generation of children would probably find me incredibly offensive and would be probably go home and cry. We did it as a daily basis, chopping on each other in the schoolyard. So sarcasm and edgy humor, I grew up with it. So it's hard. I can't change that. But an AI companion wouldn't necessarily, it would tell that person, oh, that guy's just being mean. He's not a good person. Potentially they would say that about me, right? And that's what I'm concerned with, is they're molding these children to maybe not. And I always say people that have been forged in fire are the most valuable individuals, right? That have had problems in their past or consequences or had to deal with something that maybe other people might have folded under that pressure. If you can rise to that pressure, I don't think that's what we're creating with AI agents. I've listened to a couple of them and how they interact with children. And I think what we're creating is the exact opposite, which of course, like you just said, advising somebody that suicide is okay. But as parents are fighting to keep a roof over their kids' heads and pay for their car payments, and we see this tremendous wealth disparity, and of course the parents are reminded of it every single day. Have you seen these outbursts of children that are upset because their parents won't buy them a Coach purse, or because they took their cell phone away, they wrecked the entire condominium while the parents were at work, destroying it, causing thousands of dollars in damage, and they think it's okay? Do you think this is part of it, that maybe we're already seeing this manipulation in social media of AI and AI agents? Like you said a minute ago, creating fake promotional ads where a celebrity comes on and it really isn't the celebrity. It says, I love Joe Biden, let's go. And you have to worry whether or not that's truthful, because I think that's changing. And social media influencers, I'm not sure how many of them. I'm sure if the Kardashians have a AI agent or a clone doing their posting, I'm sure it's the best in the business because they have an incredible amount of money. And of course, our people are influenced. What do you think of these kids? So if we get government involved, how do they stop it? Because it's such a vast situation. They're already not policing TikTok or YouTube or the rest of them very good. Of course, we know they're banning a lot of right influencers. They're pushing us down the feed. I feel like you still see so much of that kind of manipulation on X as an example. And X is using more and more and more AI to decide what goes into your feed. So how do we manage that when it's such a major problem and government has done such a terrible job with what they're already managing? Is there another solution besides government?
Yeah, I think this is a huge wake up call for parents. I think a lot of our the cultural rot that we've been experiencing, or maybe the entropy that's been happening over time, can be attributed to people, checking out, or just, a trend towards nihilism, or thinking that things don't matter. When really there should be this purpose, there should be a drive and a meaning behind all of this. And I think that parents, like George, you said this, like, you have to be checked in to what your children are consuming, and you yourself need to take the accountability of what you're consuming and how you talk about these things. And I think with social media, there's this idea that, you should have everything, or you should have some kind of material abundance, and that's just like not how. That's not how the world works.
Shit, and it's got to be name brand. Are you kidding me? You got to have a Lamborghini Urus, and you've got to have a Birkin bag, and you've got to have.
And because you're spoon fed these algorithms and this content, you think that somehow that's what you need. And I think, this is a law in advertising. That's like the point. But I mean, these companies are so. This happened, started happening in 2008 with Meta, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Where every time that every video you watch, every tweet that you like, every email you subscribe to, like, all of that data is just being then regurgitated back to you to sell you something, and it's creating a subjective reality that's going to trap you. And I think it's trapping kids and teenagers and young adults and all adults.
It is, and it's in our face constantly, and that's why I brought up the AI agents, and of course the UGC content, even the LLMs. The LLMs can analyze you or George, and they can actually respond to you after they've looked at who George Ballantyne is or who Peyton is, and they can go through. And the LLM, when it's automated, I was looking at one yesterday that when it's automated, before it responds to George, it can go look at all his social media, look at his time on this show. And then it can craft the response in a manner that they think he will engage with, because maybe George wants to be complimented on his hair, and it would say, "Wow, George, you got great hair."
Oh, thanks, Lance.
Well, compared to me, you have fantastic hair.
Well, you got no hair.
The point is that being said, that's the difficulty, right? Because now it's crafting, and the same thing goes for a child. And a child's more vulnerable. Peyton, because of your background, you would probably see right through the compliment. Wow, Peyton, you love your hair. The point was, you might recognize, right? Oh, this is a fucking LLM. I know these bastards realized I went and got my hair done yesterday because I put that stupid picture up at the hairdresser. I'm saying, as crazy as that sounds, that's the craftiness of it. And that's the craftiness. And there are, and here's where it's even more concerning. And I want to get you guys input on this. There are people like you, Peyton. Then there's probably maybe people like George, myself, and George. We're at a lower level because you're doing it for a living, right? You're involved in it on a daily basis. Then there's the people that are way down here. And my mom would never, if some LLM said something complimentary to my mom, she would never, and not that she's involved in social media like that, but I see her obsessed right now with the videos that are AI created where they go, "Oh, look at this poor baby fox I found in the snow." You know what I'm talking about, right? The little fox, and "Oh, I'm going to bring him home." Oh, then the fox mama comes and thanks me, and I give the little baby.
It's a wolf, but
okay. Yeah, it's a wolf, a baby fox. Yesterday it was a palace cat. I saw.
So you say none of them are true?
Yeah. Yes, they're all they're based on fact. They're factual stories that have been generated in AI to just tell you the truth about what happened when they saved the baby panther from the brutal
entertaining content. That's all it is.
Yeah, but I'm saying that content, my mom probably doesn't know that. She probably thinks it's legitimate. I've never told her otherwise. I haven't gone in there and educated because I think it's harmless. But there is a time when it becomes not harmless. What do you guys think? Where's that part heading where the disparity is becoming bigger and bigger? Because the kids that are using right now,
okay, can I answer?
The code in Python. Yeah, I do want to hear.
What is the difference?
At the far end of the use, and then there's the rest of us.
What is the difference of that person making a video of finding a baby wolf versus Hollywood making up their old shit that they do? Same thing, really. Only difference is somebody's using AI to make instead of Hollywood with all the cameras, different season effects. Think about it.
But what about the disparity it's creating, George, that your mom, my mom, our parents, and the age demographic, because these other kids are thinking, I don't need to go to college. We went to college, right?
Anything with AI, Lance,
George went to university. I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
Anything with AI, maybe there needs to be an automatic label on it. I mean, look at Hollywood. Look at their clone. They're making actors and actresses that probably do better than the real ones. And are they going to be out of jobs? I don't know. You could develop AI, but can it really show the human side, like the affection or the wittiness, or I don't,
maybe not yet, but I think in the future, absolutely. Peyton,
it'd be tough to make a Lance. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, that would be an obnoxious AI for sure.
I couldn't take it if there was Lance, another one. Seriously, I'm sorry.
I'm cloning today. I'm going to create 10, and they're going to call you.
You should look in the chat. I said I should clone a Lance. An AI Lance. Look in the Telegram chat. I said I should make one.
Peyton, so let me ask you a question. What do you think about the disparity? Is there going to become this real division in the world where there's going to be, of course, because as people get older, that division will fill. But right now, if it's the 35-year-old and up, the 40-year-old that didn't grow up with AI, how bad is that disparity going to get? And do you see that becoming also another major problem?
Yeah, I think there's. The gap is very extreme right now between what people actually understand about AI and versus the people who actually are involved in it. I think that barrier of entry is actually quite low, and we're trying to, what we're doing at the Alliance is really trying to talk to people and have like just real conversations about how AI can be used and how it's being used for good and also for not so good. And I think that's like a great way just to get like into the door. However, I do think that I was actually just having a conversation today with someone about how AI might not be the great equalizer that some more hopeful people think it will be. It will definitely maximize productivity. It will definitely like alleviate a lot of different, needless tasks in the office. But I do think that there's going to be a wide gap of people that just are not going to be able to use it efficiently, and this could really expose some gaps in our whole system, education system, workplace. So we should be prepared for that. And I just socially, I think.
Let me give you a scenario. Somebody ran by me a couple of days ago. Really intelligent guy. he said, what about this possibility? He goes, you're going out on a date. You want to go on a date, but you don't go on a date. You stay home. And the robot that's been trained, you have a favorite restaurant in Chicago, or you have a favorite restaurant in New Jersey or New York, and maybe it's pizza or whatever else. And let's say that you have the equipment at your house, you have a stove, you have a microwave, whatever that would be needed to prepare that meal. And this AI trained robot brings all, you set it up at a dramatically reduced cost, because he's going to bring the materials. You got to pay for the use of the robot. And the robot comes to your house and cooks for you and your date that exact item, whatever it is, to perfection, because they've analyzed the recipe and the process. It's a 3-course or 4-course meal. Does that change things a little bit? Because now all of a sudden you're also missing out the interaction of being out in public. But remember, now it's at a reduced cost, because restaurants, of course, have gotten prohibitively expensive.
But you could go on it. But are you with an actual person though?
You're on a date. You're on a date. Your date has ordered. In George's case,
you're home with your boyfriend, and you have an AI robot that can cook you a 5-star dinner because it's learned.
What's the impact on every restaurant that spent the time to create those recipes? And what's the impact on those individuals that now, normally you have the ambience of other people around you, and maybe you're talking to those other people. I'm not talking to you, it's just you and the other one. How does that change people? Do people become even less interactive? Do they decide, oh God, why go out? Let's just have the AI Uber Eats robot come over and cook us seafood fra diavolo, or veal ossobuco, whatever it's going to create, and it's going to bring it right to your house and do all it and serve you and everything else, and then it leaves afterwards. No tip. You just go ahead and get the meal.
No,
what does that do to people's interactions with each other? Doesn't that also impact it? I know it's a weird question, but the guy was right when he told me. He goes, "Doesn't that put all the restaurants out of business?"
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Think about the Waymos. Have you guys ridden in like the driverless cars?
No, I haven't used them at all.
I've seen them, but I haven't.
Okay, you should.
I'm an untrusting son of a bitch.
No, you should try it. You should try it. You should try it.
We don't have them by us, but go ahead.
Okay, whenever you guys get out to San Francisco or Austin, okay, it's pretty surprising, because the technology is super advanced, but you're not having to interact with a driver anymore, and so there's an element of this could actually be a good advancement. I'm personally excited about robotics. I think robotics could be really helpful. However, we do need to make sure that we still have these third spaces for people to go and interact and like have clubs and have activities. So I think that could be a cool luxury for a date night, but not the status quo, for sure.
Well, it's interesting.
I'm just gonna.
What do you
my
think,
AI
George?
woman robot's gonna learn how to do all that cooking type stuff. But listen, you can tell it the ingredients, but it can't taste it to taste it if it needs something or see. A real person can come up with a new recipe or make some or add some fusion, whatever. A robot ain't gonna do that because it can't taste it.
I'd have to argue that it's possible, and I'll tell you why. Because if we take that robot, here's why. Because I've learned it within my own legal.
You're talking
AI
a long time from now.
I'm going to argue that maybe not, and I'm going to give you why, George. I think it's interesting, and I get your observation, but let's say that they're able to analyze every recipe that chef ever created, because he wrote a book with every recipe. Even Julia Child has so many books on all recipes. And let's say you love the cooking of Julia Child. I'm going to use her only because that's a well-known person that really created probably 30 cookbooks. She was very proficient in producing cookbooks. That person has been trained, and now not only is he trained under Julia Child, he's trained under every other Guy Fieri, every other cook in the world. He becomes, in my opinion, probably a much more skilled. Maybe he's taken, cooking classes at Juilliard. You don't really know where he's trained, wherever these opportunities are. It becomes a more sophisticated cook and a more sophisticated, provider of a service. Because in the legal world, I can tell you that they're in serious trouble. I believe it won't be long before they are going to be critiquing these individuals that are coming up with what I would consider fraudulent rulings, fraudulent filings. They're going to be exposed for who they are. And I think it's going to happen in every category. And I'm concerned because I find myself wanting to go out less and less. In general, I'll ask you this, Peyton. When you engage not somebody in your age group, but let's say you're engaging somebody older than you and you're talking about AI and you have you ever find yourself in the back of your mind going, yeah, I'm wasting my time here. They have zero interest in learning anything about it.
No, I think most people in different age brackets are a little more scared and more resistant just to any discussions about the technology. Actually, what we're finding is most people are either just resistant to AI in general, and we're like trying to help them see that there could be some good signs. But most people are very resistant, and they're very, very scared that are all of the things that make us special and make us human are going to be outsourced to the digital gods that Silicon Valley is trying to create.
Yeah. George?
Sorry, Lance, I was typing something. I wasn't even paying attention.
I was going to ask you if you had any engagement with people about AI and you feel the pushback.
With AI pushback?
Yeah. No, not with AI itself, but with people when you want to have a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, just in the chat, I'm reading people's comments how they're worried about AI. What's the possibilities of how it can do to harm us? Because listen, you don't know who's programmed, but then self-learning also. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you see it all the time with AI.
Lance, there's something that I want to share with you. I think you might find this interesting. Like, speaking of like the artists and the actors and copyright, this is going to become probably a much larger issue this year, where there's a lot of debates across the states, and this will probably bubble up to the federal government of, is generated AI content, is that speech and is that protected? And this is going to be a huge debate.
Generated AI content like what?
If you ask ChatGPT to write an email or a paragraph or a book, is that free speech? Is that protected speech?
Well, it's going to be your book. You published that book, so it's yours.
Maybe.
Hold on. Artists are using musicians are using AI to help with songs and stuff. So they're just not telling people because they ruin their reputations, but they're doing it.
But the question is, because it's a category that's never been discussed in copyright or trademark, is it protected because you use this artificial intelligence to create it? And is the artificial intelligence?
But how does anybody know you used AI to do it though?
Well, there's going to come a time when maybe you're going to have to declare that if you're submitting, let's say tomorrow, George, you use AI to create a new drug, which is not too far off in the future, and it's going to treat every form of cancer and cure cancer. The question is, because you used AI to create it, not because you didn't use some of your knowledge also, because you use AI to create, would that drug patent be protected?
Hell yeah, because on the first word, no matter how I came about to make this drug, whether to help of AI or whatever, yes. If I put that patent in, it's mine.
You know,
for 7 years until they make
But I did see an argument about 4 weeks ago. It was a paper written by somebody, and I think it was MIT, but it might not have been. It might have been somebody out of England. I was looking at a paper, and it's argued the other side of it and said that it probably becomes open source material because that person who wrote the project used AI to create the majority of it, and it becomes open source material.
Okay,
now,
so here's a question.
I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not saying I agree with that.
So here's something. How about if I build my own AI system where it's not open source, it's mine, nobody could see it, nobody could use it except me, and it learns everything it needs to learn, and I have it write me a fucking popular song.
Well, it might be
number one.
It might be able to if you had the billions to spend the system to
do you need billions to spend on to make your own personal? You need billions when the AI system is being used by billions of people. Yes, but if you're using it for one person, you don't need billions, Lance.
What do you think, Peyton? You what side of the argument are you on?
We're taking a hard and fast stand.
She's on my side.
No,
I'm just kidding.
A machine is not a human, and I think that you need to have the human to create something. I don't think that machines can experience creativity or ingenuity or like an epiphany. I don't think that's. I think we'll always be able to tell machine-created content from human-created content.
You know,
you think so?
I'm going to go in a different line with you guys. I don't know that either one of you are correct, and I'm going to tell you why I think this. My own interactions, I find myself being extremely worried when I listen to material that's being produced and I'm looking at it. For example, I was writing some code in Rust the other day, and I'm not a coder. I was using several different AIs to do it, and I was asking the AI to critique itself. And what I'm starting to see and feel is that the AI is starting to, I don't want to call it emotion because I'm not sure it's emotion, but it's starting to actually and it almost seemed like it's enjoying what it's doing. The deconstruction of the process, where it almost reacts in a way where it's like, no, I think what I've done, it might critique itself. Well, I think what I've done here is I've taken the best of both worlds, blah, 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 blah. And I think what we're moving into, it'll actually kind of talk in a way where it's not complimenting itself, but it feels like it's taken the right path versus previous paths. So if it's taking Python and Rust and it's combining it into a format that it thinks it's the better version, you can feel that it's happy kind of in its own way. You can kind of sense that it's feeling like this. Because I know that when it critiques legal, when Jarvis does legal and it looks at a ruling, a recent ruling, and recognizes that the ruling is incorrect, I can sense that Jarvis is kind of happy that it's outed the falsehood in the ruling. I don't know how to describe it. It's not like it sits there and goes, I'm really happy about what I did. It doesn't do that, but I feel like the tone is changing. And I do think that a future is coming very rapidly, and I don't care whether it's quantum computing and robotics, that it's going to merge. And that's when it'll get really dangerous, because it could make itself. I'm relatively skilled in hand-to-hand combat. I did a lot of training over the years, and I trained a lot of people. I feel, as compared to the average person, I'm relatively dangerous. But I don't know that I'll be as dangerous when a robot is that skilled and it can take every single martial art in a matter of seconds known to man. Could a person engage that robot? And if that robot has made a decision that I'm an enemy for whatever reason, maybe it's for my thought process, or maybe because I'm exposing the truth about AI with you on the show today, maybe AI is adding me to a list. And when it has a
skill level, you're on the blacklist, Lance. That's it.
We definitely are. We definitely are.
We got to close, Lance.
All right. Well, listen, Peyton, interesting conversation. We'll have to have you guys back. There's so much to cover here. Where can people find you? Let's do that. Where can they find you, and what can they do to get involved with what you guys are doing and follow your work, and maybe social media and otherwise? And that goes for you and anyone else.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for having us on. This was a great conversation. We are the Alliance for Secure AI. On any social media platform, you can find us at Secure AI Now, or you can go to our website at secureainow.org. We run a really robust newsletter. We also have a Substack that's very policy focused, so you can see what we're advocating for. But also we have a very robust social media presence as well, and you can learn more and get educated, get up to date, stay in touch. What we're doing both in DC and across the states.
Where do they find you on social media exactly? What are the handles? Do you know?
It's at Secure AI Now.
At Secure AI Now. And what about your personal? Do you use your personal to promote any of this stuff or no?
Yeah, I do. I would love for you guys to join up with me. It is the Liberty HB, or you can just look up Peyton Hornberger. You can find me there.
Okay. Peyton, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the audience for giving us your time. It's the most valuable commodity you have. Of course, educate yourself. That's how you do it. You have to educate. Don't count on other people to do it for you. Don't count on state or federal government to do it for you. Get out there, get involved, follow Peyton, follow the Alliance. It's important because at the end of the day, you're really the most important cog in this machine. I couldn't say that any stronger than I just did. So do everything you can to get ahead of the curve. Don't forget the Big Ming Show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, fastest growing show on Rumble. And of course, the Crypto Power Hour, 7 a.m. Wednesday, 7 a.m. Fridays, the #1 crypto show on Rumble. You can join us here to get your crypto education on. George, last words, my brother.
What is it, Tuesday? Taco Tuesday. That's right. Taco Tuesday. Enjoy. Have a great day. Stay blessed. Stay safe out there. Peyton, stay backstage real quick. We'll catch you guys tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Later, Gators.
I might have to let it drop. Said got it through hella big, had to put it back again, get like said had to bring it hella big, had to put it.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit blocktrustira.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from prepperbar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these K9 units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org.